Dark smoke rose over the colony of Velmora 7. Once a peaceful world filled with green trees and floating crystal cities, it now lay in ruins. Power lines sparked. The skies were gray. Buildings were broken. People walked slowly, hungry and tired, their eyes filled with fear. The air was getting thinner each day. Their oxygen filters were failing. The cold had crept into their homes. Food was almost gone. Medical supplies had run out weeks ago. Governor Terrell stood inside the command tower, looking out the window. He had once worn shining white robes of leadership. Now they were stained and torn. He held his breath, trying to stay strong for his people. The screen in front of him blinked with a soft red light. "Governor," whispered his assistant, a young alien girl with pale blue skin and tired eyes. "This might be our last chance." Terrell nodded. "Send the final SOS." She hesitated. "Are you sure? We already tried all nearby systems." "No one is coming." "I know," he said softly. "But we'll send it farther this time. Beyond the safe zones, you mean?" "The Deathworlders." Terrell's voice dropped to a whisper. Yes, everyone in the galaxy had heard of the Deathworlders. Humans. Creatures from a planet full of deadly storms, volcanoes, beasts, and poisons. A place where only the strongest survived. They weren't part of the Galactic Alliance. They lived alone, far away. Many believed they were monsters, not saviors. But Terrell had no choice. "If they answer," his assistant whispered. "What?" "If they destroy us," Terrell looked at the broken colony behind him, "then at least we won't die in silence." He placed his trembling hand on the console. His voice shook as he spoke. "This is Governor Terrell of Velmora 7. We are under crisis. Our systems have collapsed. We are starving. Our people are dying. We ask for help. From anyone. Deathworlders, please." The signal was sent shot into the dark galaxy like a dying breath. Then silence. 3 days passed. The skies stayed gray. No reply came. People began to lose hope again. Children cried, mothers wept. Some even begged to be put into Sarisla. Then on the 4th day, something changed. A loud, deep hum shook the air. A strange energy crackled in the atmosphere. Lights flickered. The clouds twisted as if something was tearing through them. Everyone ran outside and looked. Now, Yupa, ship black, as the void descended from the sky. Not like the Alliance's bright silver cruisers. This was something darker, sharper. It looked like a predator from an old legend. Its engines growled low, like a beast ready to pounce. Panic spread through the colony. People ran into shelters. Some tried to grab weapons. Others dropped to their knees and prayed. The governor stepped outside, shielded by guards. He looked up in awe. The ship had no markings, no flag, and no name. Just one thing. A symbol in open red hand painted on its hull. Everyone knew that sign. It meant death. "It's them," someone whispered. "It's the humans." The ship hovered in silence. No greeting. No message. Just a long, cold shadow falling across the colony. Then a hatch opened with a loud hiss. A figure stepped out. Tall, armored, covered from head to toe in black and gray plates. A helmet hid the face. A strange glowing blade was strapped to the back. He didn't speak. He walked slowly across the dirt, boots crushing the cracked soil. Governor Terrell forced himself to step forward. His heart pounded. His voice barely came out. "Are you here to help us?" The figure stopped, turned slightly. A voice deep and low came from the helmet. "We heard, that was all. No promise." Just those 2 words. And yet, something shifted in that moment. Not just fear, but something else, eh? Strange hope. Because the humans had heard the call, and they had come. The Deathworlder stood in silence. No one moved. The wind whistled between the broken towers of Velmora 7, the alien, civilian stall. Thin beings with soft-colored skin watched from behind doorways and shattered windows. Children clung to their mothers. Soldiers held their weapons tight, but dared not lift them. This wasn't what they had expected. Rescue teams usually came in white suits with warm voices. They brought food, doctors, and translators. This human brought fear. He stepped forward. Again, slowly, each footstep echoed heavy and cold. His armor was dark gray, with edges that looked sharp enough to cut stone. His helmet reflected no light. No one could see his eyes. Behind him, the human ship hovered like a dark mountain, engines glowing red, rumbling low like a hungry creature waiting for command. Governor Tyrell took a deep breath and stood his ground. The human stopped just 3 steps away. "I am Governor Tyrell," he said slowly. I thank you for coming. We were not sure if the message reached you." The human didn't answer. Instead, he looked around the colony at the broken water. Towers, the cracked roads, the starving people. He scanned everything silently. Then he raised one hand. From his ship, small pods dropped round black machines that landed with a soft thud. They opened with a hiss and floated up, spreading out in every direction. People screamed. Some tried to run. Tyrell shouted. "Stop! Wait, the pods didn't attack." They hovered over rooftops, scanning and spraying something into the air. The governor's assistant looked at the readings on her scanner. "Governor, they're releasing air filters. They're fixing the atmosphere." Tyrell's eyes widened. "What?" At the same time, 3 large crates slammed down from the ship. With a hiss, they opened, filled with boxes of nutrient bars, water pouches, and emergency blankets. Within minutes, the colony was filled with buzzing machines. One flew over a broken well and dropped a glowing device inside. The water began to turn clear. Another floated into a hospital and injected a glowing mist into the vents. The sick inside began to breathe easier, but still, human didn't say a word. He walked through the colony like a ghost, watching, scanning, fixing. A group of looters tried to steal from the crates. They grabbed food and ran into the alleys. Suddenly, a strange drone dropped from the sky, fast and silent. It zipped past them, then circled back. The thieves froze. The drone let out a sharp click. All 5 looters collapsed, paralyzed but alive. The human arrived seconds later. He looked down at them and spoke for the second time. No more games. By evening, the colony had changed. Fires were put out. Safe zones were marked. Fresh water flowed in small streams across the streets. Children walked out of hiding. Mothers wept quietly as they handed food to their little ones. People still didn't understand who this man was or why he came alone, but no one could deny the truth. He was dangerous, but he was saving them that night. The council met again. They sat in the ruined chamber, whispering, "This is not how rescues work," one said. "Where is his crew?" "Maybe he is the crew," another replied. "Deathworlders, they do things differently." Governor Tyrell said nothing. He was thinking about that voice. Those 2 words we heard. No comfort, no emotion, just cold focus. "Should we trust him?" Someone asked. Tyrell finally spoke. "He hasn't hurt anyone who didn't deserve it, but he hasn't explained anything." Tyrell looked out the window. The human stood still in the square, watching the machines work. "He doesn't need to explain. He's not here to talk. He's here to fix." Later, as the colony lights flickered back to life, a small, alien child walked up to the human. Had bright green eyes and dirty hands. She held out a small purple fruit. It's her only possession. He looked down at it, took it, nodded once, then gave her a heat pack and a warm blanket. For the first time, the child smiled. And for the first time, the human tilted his helmet slightly, as if he smiled too. The Deathworlder had arrived, not to talk, not to promise, but to do what needed to be done. And the people of Velmora 7 began to understand this was not aid. This was action. The sun rose slowly over Velmora 7, shining its pale light on a world that had nearly given up. But something had changed. Where there had been smoke, there was steam rising from clean water. Where people once lay sick and cold, now they sat wrapped in thermal blankets, sipping warm nutrient soup from ration packs. The wind no longer carried the smell of rot butt of ozone, fresh metal, and quiet order, and at the center of it all stood the human. He hadn't slept. He hadn't removed his armor. He moved from place to place. Like a shadow of war and order, his machines buzzed across the colony, spraying antiviral mist into alleyways, releasing nanobots into water pipes, clearing debris with silent blasts. They did in hours what the local repair teams had failed to do in weeks. But not everyone was grateful. Some thought the human was too quiet, too calm, too dangerous. In the Northern District, 3 former security guards had taken control of the food depot. They wore old armor and used blasters to scare off civilians. They claimed they were protecting the rations, but they were eating well while the others starved. One guard laughed as he shoved an old man away. "Tell the council they'll eat after us." He never saw the drone behind him. It dropped. From the shadows, silent, sharp, and fast. A flash of blue light shot across the air. The guard fell instantly paralyzed. The other 2 raised their weapons too late. A thundering crash came as the armored human himself arrived, breaking down the door with one strike. They tried to shoot. It didn't matter. The blaster bolts bounced off his armor like sparks off stone. One by one, they dropped. Not dead, just stunned. Disabled, the human didn't speak. He simply turned and opened the food storage. His machine floated inside and scanned the supplies, then sent boxes flying outward, straight to hungry hands. The people watched, silent and amazed. They called it the cleanse. By midday, he had moved to the outer edges of the colony where the sick had been abandoned. Hospitals had failed. Medicine was gone. Infected were too many, and the doctors had left weeks ago. Now, the Deathworlder walked into the worst zone. Alone. Children with fever looked up at him through swollen eyes. Some screamed. Some cried. He said nothing. His armor released a slow mist filled with billions of invisible nanites. They floated through the air, entering lungs, cleaning bloodstreams, fighting viruses. He placed strange silver med patches on the sickest ones. Their bodies stopped shaking. Their breathing became calm. A nurse who had stayed behind whispered, He doesn't cure like us. He erases illness like a machine." Later that evening, an explosion rocked the far west. A group of raiders outsiders had entered the edge of the colony, hoping to steal supplies. They thought the human was just a myth. They learned otherwise. The raiders came in fast ships, with hoverbikes and laser rifles. The humans stood alone on the hill. The colonists hid behind barriers, peeking through cracks, terrified. Then the sky turned red. Missiles launched from the Deathworlder ship, not to kill but to trap. They burst into glowing webs, wrapping the invaders midair, disabling their weapons. The human moved like thunder appearing between raiders with his glowing blade. He cut through their bikes, crushed their rifles, and knocked them down with precise strikes. In less than 6 minutes, it was over. No deaths, no mercy. The human dragged the unconscious raiders to the center of the colony, dropped them like trash, and simply said, "Your problems are mine now." That night, people gathered around fire warmers, whispering his name. Some called him the Ghost in Steel. Others called him the Silent Guardian. One child just said, "It's the man who made the darkness run." Governor Terrell watched the Deathworlder. From the command tower, he still didn't know why the human had come alone, or why Earth had sent that ship. But he couldn't deny it anymore. This wasn't a rescue. It was a cleansing. Not just of sickness, but of corruption, cowardice, and chaos. The human wasn't fixing their systems. He was fixing them. But questions still remained. Why had Earth sent this ship? Why not doctors? Why not diplomats? And what would happen when the colony no longer needed saving? The Deathworlder didn't speak of the future. He only acted. And with each passing hour, Velmora 7 became less like the broken colony it once was, and more like something Earth would respect. The night on Velmora 7 was quiet now. Too quiet. No alarms. No riots. No cries for help. But silence didn't always mean peace inside the old Alliance archive, tower half buried in rubble, and Time Governor Terrell stood beside a flickering data screen. He had ordered the files to be pulled from deep storage, classified ones, locked behind layers of forgotten codes. And there it was, the ship that hovered over their colony now, the one that had saved them, terrified them, judged them. It had a name once, Vindicator-9, an old Earth ship, removed from records, lost in the war 20 years ago, but here it was again. Reborn, the ship hadn't come to help, it had come to correct. Why would Earth send that? Whispered Tyrell's assistant, scanning the same file. Her fingers trembled over the screen. It's not a relief vessel, she said. This was used for planetary strikes, civil war suppression, enemy strongholds. Tyrell's voice was dry. It was built for fear. Another line of the report glowed on screen. Decommissioned 14 years ago. Missing 12. Sightings denied. Last use, classified. They looked at the ship again, still floating above the colony, still rumbling softly, watching. But this wasn't just about the ship anymore. It was about the human inside. Back in the colony square, the Deathworlder knelt beside a broken panel. His hands moved like machines, fast, practiced. Not repairing to survive, but rebuilding to withstand. His tools were old, scratched, yet still worked like extensions of his fingers. He didn't notice. The crowd watching him from a distance, or maybe he did, but chose not to care. A group of young engineers approached carefully, holding a scanner. Sir, one began, we can help. He held up a hand. Not to stop them, but to warn. They stood still. Then he connected a small cube to the panel. The entire street lit up. Lights hummed, heaters warmed. Power flowed. The engineers gasped. No one in the colony remembered that level of energy control. One whispered, "That's not Alliance tech. That's pre-Union design." From the Human Core Wars, Governor Tyrell finally made a decision. He requested a private meeting with the Deathworlder. No guards, no translators, just one leader facing. Another that the room was small and bare. The only light came from a single hanging bulb. The human entered without sound, armor scratched, boots muddy, eyes hidden behind his visor. Tada stood and tried to speak without fear. "I read about your ship, about what it's done before. Vindicator-9 was not meant for rescue. It was sent to break worlds." The human said nothing. Tyrell continued. "Why are you really here?" Finally, the Deathworlder spoke. His voice was calm, heavy, ancient. "Your signal was sent too far, too loud. Someone tried to bury it. That alone made it interesting. We don't send diplomats to fix rot. We send a purifier." "Blinked, you mean? Earth knew someone here didn't want help?" The helmet nodded once. "Dot. Someone tried to sell your colony's death. That's a pattern, and patterns draw my ship." The governor sat slowly. "You're not just saving us. I'm hunting." Meanwhile, in the eastern sector of Velmora 7, an old transmitter crackled back to life. One of the humans' drones had uncovered it beneath a warehouse. Floor files began to transfer. Messages. Illegal ones. They were transmissions to unknown coordinates. Not sent by the colony, but from inside it. Encrypted messages, selling locations. Coordinates of weak cities. And trade deals for alien flesh. The trader wasn't just someone greedy. They were part of something larger. The drone beeped once, then sent the data back to the human ship. Inside the hull of Vindicator-9, red lights blinked. Target confirmed. That night, strange things happened. One of the counselors vanished. His house stood open, food still cooking. But he was gone. No. One saw the human enter. No one saw him leave. But by morning, Trader's name was marked on a black panel outside the command center. Removed, corruption confirmed. Governor Tyrell saw it and said nothing, because deep inside he knew something simple. The Deathworlder was not only fixing power lines and cleaning water, he was hunting ghosts. Ghosts of war, betrayal, and rot. And Velmora 7 was only the latest. Target in a long, quiet war. Earth had been fighting behind the stars. The air on Velmora 7 felt heavier now, not because of smoke or broken systems, but because of fear. The colony was healing. Water was clean. Power was steady. Food reached even the far districts. But no one celebrated. Not when people were disappearing. Not when the Deathworlder moved through the streets like a shadow and left behind silence. He had exposed one traitor, a counselor, gone without a scream. No trial. Just a name on the board, removed. But he wasn't done. And now, everyone wondered who's next. Governor Terrell sat at his desk, staring at the warning that had arrived on his private console. Incoming. Transmission intercepted. Source. Within colony. Encryption. Enemy origin signature. Enemy origin. Terrell had seen that tag only once before, during the Slaver Wars. A symbol used by black market raiders and corrupt trading rings. Anyone who used it was part of something dark, something deadly. He stood, heart racing. Someone inside his colony was still trying to sell them out, even now. Even after the humans' arrival, the Deathworlder moved silently across rooftops that night. The stars above him were quiet. No passing ships, no patrols. He liked it that way. His visor scanned heat signatures, tracking hidden figures below. Some were guards, others were civilians, but one was different. The signal came from deep inside the maintenance tunnels long forgotten. Now no longer mapped. He dropped without sound into the shadows. Below, in the dark, a figure typed on. A dusty console, clawed fingers danced across keys. The signal blinked green. Coordinates sent, whispered a voice. The human is distracted. Come before sunrise. Bring chains. The figure didn't hear the footstep behind him, didn't hear the slow rise of a blade from its sheath. Only when the tunnel lights flickered did he turn and freeze. The Deathworlder stood there, visor glowing faint red. Not speaking, just watching. Traitor dropped to his knees, begging in broken words. I didn't know you'd come. They paid me. They promised I'd be safe. The human raised one hand. Click, the lights went out. By morning, the entire colony knew. Another traitor gone. But this time something was left behind. A message burned into the tunnel wall. You were never safe. Terrell called an emergency council meeting. So only 5 remained now. 3 stared at the table. One shook with fear. We're being watched, one counselor said. By our own people. By the human. This isn't rescue. This is a purge. He's protecting us, Terrell replied. He's scaring us, another shouted. Terrell stood slowly. He is not here to make you comfortable. He's here to make you honest. A long silence followed. No one dared argue. Back outside. The human stood at the colony edge. He had found the old beacon tower once used to send messages to the Alliance. But now it was rigged. Wires twisted underneath, a small explosive, designed to detonate if the beacon was used again. Another trap. Another signal meant to kill the colony before help could truly arrive, and this one had been set before the SOS, long before. The human looked down at the wires. Someone had planned this collapse. This colony had been targeted that night. As storms gathered over the mountains, the human returned to his ship. Inside, Vindicator 9. The air was cold and silent. He walked past ancient panels, touched symbols that once led entire armies. He activated a screen. Pattern confirmed. Corruption rooted prior to collapse. External buyers. Active coordinates. Multiple colonies at risk.
Another whisper from the dark galaxy.
Another colony. Waiting to fall. Back in the colony, a young girl stared at the sky. She pointed at the massive ship, eyes wide. Will he leave now? She asked. Her mother shook her head. No, she whispered. Not until the last thread is buried. And even then, no one knew if he would ever really leave. Because the Deathworlder hadn't come just to fix Velmora-7. He had come to send a message to the entire galaxy. We are watching. 3 weeks after the human arrived, Velmora-7 no longer looked like a dying colony. Clean streets, working power grids, medical centers open again. No more stolen food, no more black markets. No more whispers of traitors. The people moved carefully, quietly, like they were still afraid to breathe too loud, afraid that if they spoke too soon, the Deathworlder might vanish like a ghost. But he did, watching, listening, and fixing. Then, on the 23rd day, he finally spoke to them. The sky turned dark in the middle of the afternoon. The human ship, Vindicator 9, opened its cum tower for the first time. A deep hum echoed across the colony. Everyone stopped what they were doing. Machines paused. Lights flickered. The central holoscreen on every building lit up at once, and his voice came through, not just to Velmora 7, but to every linked outpost nearby. Earth was speaking. "We received your signal," the human said. "And we read what others ignored. You called for help. No one came. Not because they couldn't, but because someone tried to bury your cry. We traced the silence. We followed the rot, and now it ends." The screen showed flashes, secret transmissions, maps of corrupted colonies, red-marked names from other worlds, faces of traitors, coordinates of entire forgotten zones. Velmora 7 wasn't the only one. They were just the first to be exposed. "We don't wear gold. We don't bring songs," he continued. "We come when the laws fail, when fear rules, when others sell their people for comfort. We are not your saviors. We are your consequence." The colony square was filled with people. Old men, children, engineers, medics. They stared at the message with wide eyes, standing shoulder to shoulder as the Deathworlder's voice filled the air like thunder. Terrell stood in the middle of them, arms crossed, his face unreadable. "We are Deathworlders," the voice said, calm and sharp. "Born from fire, shaped by pressure, hardened by storms. Our world taught us pain and survival. And now, we answer cries like yours." The screen faded, but the silence remained for a long time. Then slowly, someone clapped just one hand, then another and another, until the square echoed with thunder again. It's time from the voices of the saved. They didn't cheer like a festival. They didn't celebrate like a parade. They clapped like soldiers salute. After battle, simple, quiet, and proud. Later that night, Governor Terrell was allowed aboard Vindicator-9. It was colder than he expected. Sterile, no decorations. No warmth. The human waited near the core console, surrounded by glowing red monitors. Tara spoke first. "I think they're ready to be strong again." The human didn't turn, just replied, "They were never weak, just misled." Terrell hesitated. "Why do you do this?" "For Earth." He asked that the human finally looked at him, for the ones who can't scream loud enough. Terrell nodded slowly, understanding something more important than politics. This man wasn't a soldier. He was a warning. As the days passed, the human began storing his drones, packing his gear. The people thought he would leave now, but he left them something behind instead. A black terminal, buried beneath the command tower. It had one button, one command. No words, just a symbol, a red open hand. If pressed, Earth would hear again, and the Vindicator, or one just like it, would return in the following weeks. Their colonies began broadcasting again, and this time they were heard. Because one world dared to call for the Deathworlders first, and Earth listened. The Deathworlder. Left without a sound, no farewell, no speech. No parade, just the slow rise of Vindicator 9 into the sky, its engines glowing red like the last flicker of a dying star. Children stood barefoot in the dust, watching with wide eyes. Old men bowed their heads. Da 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 da. Mothers held their little ones close, and the entire colony of Velmora 7 stood still as the ship vanished into the black sky. Gone, but not forgotten. Weeks passed. Grass returned between cracked roads. The trees, once gray and dying, began to bloom again, sick healed. The broken buildings were rebuilt not by humans, but by the people, as elves. They weren't waiting anymore. The human hadn't saved them. He had woken them. Governor Terrell walked through the town square every morning. He saw children studying, Soldiers training, engineers rebuilding systems with pride, and in the center of the plaza, they had carved a statue. Not of the human's face, no one had seen it, but of his. Helmet, tall, cold, strong, and on its base, in clear letters, we were heard. The legend began to spread. Stories traveled far, carried by traders, travelers, and refugees. Tales of a colony that had cried out into the stars. Tales of a dark ship, ancient and angry. Tales of a man in armor who walked through fire not to save but to judge. Some said he never slept. Others claimed he had no name. A few believed he was part machine. But one detail never changed. When no one else came, the Deathworlders did. On a distant moon called Pharaxi 2, a mining camp was attacked. By raiders, they sent a distress signal to the Alliance. No answer, but one engineer whispered something strange. He had once lived on Elmora-7. He ran to the old beacon and activated a buried console, pressed a single red hand, and said nothing. 3 days later, the skies above Pharaxi 2 split open. A black ship emerged, engines glowing. No greetings, just silence. In fear back on Velmora 7. A new generation of children were being raised on stories, but not just fairy tales. They studied Earth's climate and learned how humans survived ice, fire, storms, predators. Poison Zan still thrived. They read about Earth's wars, not to glorify violence, but to understand resolve. They trained, not to fight, but to never be weak again. And in every school, at the center of the classroom, there was a single emblem, a red open hand, a promise, a warning, a reminder. One night a child asked Governor, "Terrell, why did the human help us?" Terrell smiled softly and knelt beside him. "He didn't help us because we were weak," he said. "He came because we chose to fight by calling out. We didn't wait for permission. We asked loudly, desperately, honestly, and Earth answered." Earth remembered. Some say Vindicator 9 still moves through the void alone, hunting broken places. It's listening for voices no one else hears. Some say there are others like him now. Other humans, other ships, other red hands. And maybe one day, you'll need them too. Just remember, don't pray for mercy. Don't wait for heroes. Scream loud enough.
I be heard.